very tight race. That remains to be seen. In Georgia, Brian Kemp has been able to really perform well ahead of Herschel Walker in that race. Again, will he be able to pull Herschel Walker up?
And as you're talking, I just want to point out that on the screen you see how incredibly close it is. Yeah, John Fetterman at 49%.
Look, you're seeing voters basically saying, we're going to make different choices from the top of the ballot to further down. And that's not often something that we see in American politics, but I think it says a lot about these candidates up and down the ballot. There are just factors with the candidates that are changing the way voters interpret what they need to do, and they're splitting from what they want to do.
And there's evidence that as we talk about it, as we're looking at those numbers, Walker now 49.5, Warnock 48.5, nobody at 50.
And one point, in addition to what Abby said, it's not just a matter of the candidates, it's also that the Senate is up for grabs here. And I think a lot of people aren't just voting for one of the candidates or the other, they're also thinking, who do I want to be running the U.S. Senate? Do I want the Republicans? Do I want the Democrats? So, and that's different from the governor's race. I mean, this has a different state to it.
I will say this also about the Pennsylvania governor's race. Josh Shapiro ran very hard on the issue of abortion, and he could make a credible case. I mean, Doug Mastriano was very far to the right on the issue of abortion and would have been a key player if that state were to move to restrict abortion rights. And Josh Shapiro ran on that immediately, and he ran on it very hard.
Also election rights. Remember, in Pennsylvania, the governor appoints the Secretary of State, so he would have had a lot of control over the 2024 election.
I just want to mention, just quickly one more time, New Hampshire. That is a heartbreak for Republicans. Because even though Maggie Hassan is an incumbent Democrat, she was governor, they of late thought, well, maybe Don Bolduc could actually overtake her and that could be a pickup. I think you're going to see a lot of questions about what happened there because Mitch McConnell's super PAC pulled their money out of that race. And the National Republican Senatorial Committee tried to put more money in, but it was too late.
Yeah, I mean, I think they always, look, Bolduc was not the candidate that they wanted.
No.
Right? They knew that he would be a pretty tough sell, even in New Hampshire, where, it's a little bit more of a free-thinking state, I guess you could put it. But toward the end, I think this last couple of weeks in this election has really tightened up a lot of these races, giving Republicans hope. But what we are starting to see tonight is that some of these states are reverting back to their DNA. I think New Hampshire reverted back to its kind of middle-of-the-road DNA and rejected some of these more extreme candidates. And I think you're seeing that even in some of the districts that we've been seeing tonight, surprises for Democrats holding on to.
One of the other interesting things in that state was, remember, Democrats actually campaigned against a much more moderate Republican in the Republican primary, the state Senate President, Chuck Morris, because they thought Bolduc would be an easier candidate. We've seen this in several states.
And that was a gamble that paid off.
Right. In this particular case, it paid off.
Very narrow.
Like Michigan, it may not.
I'm going to go over to Jake for a projection.
That's right, Dana. We have the major projection right now. CNN is projecting that in Ohio, venture capitalist J.D. Vance will defeat Congressman Tim Ryan and be the next U.S. Senator from the state of Ohio. J.D. Vance will be elected the next senator from Ohio, taking the place of retiring Republican Senator Rob Portman. The balance of power right now, 100 seats in the Senate, 43 of them belong to Democrats, 45 of them belong to Republicans, 12 seats remain. All Republicans need to do is pick up one net Democratic seat, and they will be able to wrest control of the U.S. Senate. Let's go to Melanie Zanona right now, who is at Vance headquarters. Melanie, a big achievement for a man who's never been elected to anything before.
Right, that's exactly right. And I'm being told that Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan has called J.D. Vance to concede in this race. Tim Ryan was always viewed as the underdog. He thought that this race was overlooked and that he could have had a lot of support from the National Party. As you can hear, the crowd is getting very excited right now as this race is being called. A lot of energy in the room right now. But J.D. Vance is someone who is going to be very different than his predecessor. Rob Portman, a longtime centrist. J.D. Vance, meanwhile, has been a fierce supporter of Donald Trump. He's been an election denier of the 2020 election. election denier, but he did say he will accept the results tonight. I've yet to hear whether he's going to come out and make a speech. We're expecting that to happen at some point, but we will keep you posted, Jake.
All right, Melanie Zanona at J.D. Vance headquarters in Ohio. CNN projecting that J.D. Vance will be the next U.S. Senator from Ohio. Let's take a look at the big picture of the U.S. Senate. Right now, Democrats leading at 48, Republicans leading 48, one in a Republican seat, one in a Democratic seat. It's really quite something.
And so a couple different ways to look at it. Let's just start with our live vote count. You look at the map. That's the Democrat leading in the Republican seat. That's the Republican leading in the Democratic.
Pennsylvania and Georgia.
Pennsylvania and Georgia. How many times have we said Pennsylvania and Georgia? Remember, coming into the night, Democrats thought maybe if we have a good night, we could pick off either North Carolina, Ohio, or Wisconsin. Well, 2 of the 3 are off the board, right? This one here, North Carolina. This one, you see Ted Budd with a lead there. And, unlikely. We just called the Ohio race for J.D. Vance. You come up here, Republicans hold that. J.D. Vance will replace Rob Corbin in the Senate. Wisconsin was the 3rd. It is a very, very close competitive race. Senator Johnson now with a 32,886 vote lead over the Democratic Lieutenant Governor. Just changed again. It's up to 43,000 now. This is what Republicans count on in these states. They think, as we get through the night and we count the late votes, the DNA kicks in, and incumbent Republican, but we'll see, 69%, still a ways to go here. So we have to count these votes, but let's just come out here and look at the importance. We look at the Senate battle for control and use the map this way. Look at the importance for what? First, let's just go back to where we are to remind people. Here's where we started the night. The narrowest of majorities only because your Democratic president and your vice president breaks the tie, right? And so now let's come this way and look at it this way. We come into these states. The Democrat is leading right here at the moment. This race is not over. It is not called. Just think about the importance of this race. For now, to begin the conversation, let's say Fetterman holds that narrow lead there. Okay, Herschel Walker is ahead here, right? No one's above 50% right now, so for the purposes of this argument, I'm going to make that a toss-up because neither candidate is above 50%. Right now, again, we're waiting to call Wisconsin. We're still counting votes out west. We'll see what happens in Washington State. We'll see what happens in Arizona. Democrat Mark Kelly has a narrow lead. We'll see if it holds. Republicans are very confident about winning this one. We're still counting votes. Sometimes Nevada takes a while too. But for the sake of the hypothetical argument, let's say the Republicans are right and they take this. Then where does that leave us? And we come out. It leaves us in a potential situation if Fetterman can hold on to this and the Republicans take that and nothing else changes. Everything else stays where it is, where it was when we woke up this morning. Then we could have a 50 Republican seats, 49 Democratic seats, and we go again to a Georgia runoff in December, assuming none of the candidates gets above 50% there. That's what makes, as we watch the outstanding, that's what makes this math first so important, assuming if Republicans are right and they can take Nevada, and we're not counting votes there yet. If Oz can come back and win this seat tonight, then you come out in this scenario. If nothing else changed on the map, Republicans would have a majority, and this would be for the extra. And the best Democrats would do is 49. Again, that's assuming Republicans are right. They're very confident about Nevada, and Mark Kelly holds on in Arizona. But it just gets you, if you just come back to where we are, it just gets you into the map that we are in a very narrow chess game for control of the Senate right now, and we have fewer pieces in play, in the sense that we're waiting on Pennsylvania, waiting on Georgia, and then Nevada. Right now, if you're the Democrats, Jake, you're watching Nevada vote count, and you're nervous.
Indeed. And CNN now has 2 major projections. In North Carolina, CNN projects that Congressman Ted Budd will become the next U.S. Senator, defeating former North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Cheri Beasley. Ted Budd, endorsed by Donald Trump in this primary, and then Donald Trump rallied for him throughout North Carolina. He will become the next U.S. Senator from North Carolina. In Connecticut, this one's no surprise, incumbent Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal will be reelected, defeating Republican Leora Levy. Let's take a look at the balance of power at this hour. As you know, 100 Senate votes. Democrats have 44 of them. Republicans have 46 of them. There are 10 seats remaining. 10 seats remaining. And CNN reminds you, of course, that Republicans just need to pick up 1 net Republican seat and 1 net Democratic seat in order to take control of the U.S. Senate. So that's where we are, 44 to 46. And Casey Hunt has some announcements for us at the Senate desk.
We do, Jake, and this really shows you, to John King's point, that we are getting down to the brass tacks here in the Senate as we try to figure out which way it's going to go, perhaps by 1 seat. And let's start, as always, in Georgia, where Herschel Walker has a very narrow lead over Raphael Warnock, just 15,000 votes, which is such a small amount considering the millions that have been cast. We've got 88% of the vote in there. Election officials saying we might not know tonight. Pennsylvania, John Fetterman at 49.2%, Mehmet Oz at 48.3%, 37,000 votes separating them, again, among millions cast. And this race is one that we're going to be counting potentially for days here. And as John outlined, this is what will save Democrats if they lose that race out in Nevada, which Republicans are very confident about, and give them a shot to actually retain control. 75% of the vote in Pennsylvania at this hour. Now let's check in on Wisconsin, which remains very close, 51% for the incumbent, Ron Johnson, over the Democrat, Mandela Barnes, with 48.8%. This remains very, very close. Mandela Barnes has been underperforming the Democratic governor, Evers. So far tonight, only about we're at 69% of the vote, so we've only got about 30% out of the vote outstanding. Now let's check in on Arizona, where Mark Kelly is sitting pretty comfortably right now, 58% over Blake Masters, the Republican, at 39.7%. That's a 240 or so thousand vote gap. I want to check in with John King and David Chalian to figure out what kind of votes are outstanding, because there's only about 50% of the vote in Arizona, and we could see that tighten up. But now we're going to turn to Boris, who's got some critical updates in the governor's race.
Yeah, Casey, it's really interesting, as you pointed